It is a solemn day for this nation. It's a solemn day that I hope we all remember. We said we would never forget. I haven't, and I'm quite certain many of you have not. It's also a wondrous day because Chief Head and I get to swear in some new first responders, whether it be Deputy Sheriff or whether it be Forsyth County firefighters. There are still young men and women who are willing to answer the call. If you will join me and rise for a presentation of colors, the anthem, and a pledge.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the singing of the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light was so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ron Freeman. I have the pleasure and the honor of serving as Sheriff of Forsyth County. And in just a little while, we will have the honor of swearing in 6 new deputy sheriffs and welcoming 2 new civilian employees to the Sheriff's Office. And you'll see Chief Head swear in quite a few firefighters in the Forsyth County Fire Department. You know, today is a fitting day, and it just so happened it was on our normal schedule of swearing in, and it fell on September 11th. I don't think that was any coincidence in any real sense of the word. It was probably God given. Like many of you looking at this crowd, each and every one of us can tell and remember where we stood on this fateful morning just 22 years ago. This morning, instead of getting up and going to my normal coffee shop, I found myself sitting in my living room watching the TV and watching a replay of the live events in New York City, Pentagon, that fateful field, and watching the harrowing recounts that we all hopefully remember so well. Every time I see that, and every year I think I do the same thing. I find myself kind of shaking with anger. Then I find myself fighting back tears. But then I find a moment when I watch the first responders that day. You know, it caught me this morning when I was watching them on TV. And I watched first responders running when the first tower collapsed. And they were running away from that billowing cloud that we all saw. And they had fear in their eyes. Many of them that I saw did. Who could blame them? But as that cloud started to settle a little bit, you know what you saw? They turned around and they ran back. They ran right back into it. Because that's what they do. They knew that they had lost brothers and sisters when that tower collapsed. They knew that their fellow citizens needed them. And they turned around and they ran back into it. Because that's what first responders do. You know, that was a beacon call for folks who wanted to join the military, young people who thought they might want to come in public service on a lot of different fronts, but particularly in public safety. And just 22 years later, we as a country find ourselves in a time that it has never been more difficult to find people to step into public safety. It has never been more difficult to recruit in this field. It has never been more difficult to retain in this field. Just 22 years away from what was the highlight of recruiting of public safety. But just when we think this country hasn't learned its lesson and hasn't remembered, I look at this, and they have. And you do. And that's why you're here. The day we forget, the day that we let division separate us, is the day that we fail. 22 years ago, didn't matter what you looked like, didn't matter where you lived, didn't matter who you worshiped, didn't matter whether you were red or blue or who you voted for or who you didn't vote for. You were a fellow citizen and a fellow American or a fellow human being, and we stood shoulder to shoulder. I get frustrated from time to time seeing where we are today, but I also get enthusiastic and encouraged when I see communities like Forsyth County stand shoulder to shoulder. When I see them, when times are at need, step up for their fellow citizen. It's what good men and women do, and we're blessed that this community is filled with good men and women. To our new first responders, thank you for answering the call. Thank you for having the courage, the heart to serve something bigger than yourselves. It's what makes Forsyth County, it's what makes Georgia, and it's what makes the United States of America. Thank you for answering the call. Don't forget those who passed before us, who gave the ultimate sacrifice, and those who suffered long after for what they did on that fateful day. We still have first responders suffering from the exposures and the trauma that they faced that day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here, not only on 9/11, but to welcome these new first responders. It is an absolute privilege, and will be my privilege in just a minute, to swear in these new deputy sheriffs. With that, I'd like to turn the podium over to Forsyth County Chairman Alfred John from our Board of Commissioners. Chairman.
Good morning, everyone. Today marks 22 years to the day when I began my morning in New York, tuning in to the news on TV, to see an odd sight of a plane that crashed into the World Trade Center. The day ended that evening with relief that my dad returned home safe from a building close to the World Trade Center where he worked. Many others did not have that feeling of relief, and a mixture of sadness, anxiety, uncertainty, fear, anger, it choked the atmosphere, as did the smoke and dust from the rubble. Today marks the day when millions in the United States and around the world watched images of men and women like you of various public safety agencies working furiously in an attempt to save as many lives as possible. From the 911 operators and dispatchers who fielded hundreds of calls, at times with a feeling of helplessness. The firefighters who arrived at the base of the World Trade Center and looked up at the imposing structure, smoke billowing from the upper floors. The police officers of various agencies who tried to provide assurance in the face of chaos. EMTs and paramedics who treated smoke inhalation and heavy trauma. It was a call to arms for public safety personnel, and they answered with little regard to their own health and welfare, in service of their fellow man. Men and women in uniform suited up for work one last time that day. Many others bear the scars of that day, still suffering from various cancers or the mental and emotional trauma which tear at them 22 years later. And they chose to go into it. Today marks the day when you will swear an oath not to a party or an ideology, not to a person or an organization, but rather to the Constitution and your fellow man. You have chosen to be called to service and duty. You have chosen to put yourself in danger to save others from it. You have chosen to sacrifice your family, your holidays, your weekends. You have chosen to be the one in whose arms a newborn cries and in whose arms a victim dies. What you haven't chosen is to carry a heavy physical, mental, and emotional burden that comes with this role. Connect with your family often. Connect with friends. Find time to enjoy life and have fun. Prioritize your health. Today marks the day when you find out how much a community supports you. Yes, you will have the brotherhood, and the leadership of your respective agencies are top-notch. But you will also find a very supportive community. The residents of this county appreciate and support the men and women in uniform. And as you have chosen to serve us, we choose you to be a part of our Forsyth County community and welcome you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Sheriff. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? September the 11th, 2001 continues to be a source of great tragedy yet pride in our country's history. In 102 minutes, 121 engine companies, 62 ladder companies, 100 ambulances, and 750 members of FDNY went to work trying to save 17,000 lives in the Twin Towers. In the end, 343 of those people that passed away that day were the brave men and women of the FDNY. Though each firefighter knew the likelihood of serious injury or death, no one refused to go into the towers that day. Not a single one. Each took their orders and went in to do what their training had taught them to do. As they climbed up the 110 stories, as they searched through the 500 tons of rubble, each firefighter kept their oath. When you're sworn into the fire service, you take the same oath as those firefighters did, to protect, rescue, and respond, no matter the call, no matter the risk. You will climb as they climbed. You'll fight fire as they fought fire. You will rescue life and property as they did. We're proud to have our newest servicemen and women here with us today to be sworn in on a day that can never be forgotten. To each of our new firefighters, I want to first say thank you for answering this call. And I want to tell you this. Your service goes beyond this department. With each answered call, your service projects the heart of America to the furthest extent. We are the home of the brave, and it starts with each of you. At this time, I'd like to ask our new firefighters to join me up front to take your oath. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. As a firefighter for the Forsyth County Fire Department, do solemnly swear to do my duty to the best of my ability with respect and dignity, serve my commanding officers with compassion and courage, and with honor and integrity, serve the citizens and visitors of Forsyth County and Cumming, Georgia, to uphold the laws and the constitutions of the United States of America, the state of Georgia, and the rules and regulations of the Forsyth County government and the Forsyth County Fire Department. So help me God. Well done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will swear in some deputy sheriffs. And just a quick note of order. Georgia law prescribes the oath that deputy sheriffs must take. And deputy sheriff ones who have not been through the police academy take one oath. Deputy sheriff twos who have already been through the police academy and are licensed by the state of Georgia to be law enforcement officers take a separate oath. So when you hear, they will sound similar, but they are slightly different. But those are prescribed by law. So today we're welcoming 3 deputy sheriff ones and then 3 deputy sheriff twos. So if the deputy sheriff ones will rise, please. You can stay in your place, rise. Gentlemen, when I tell you, you'll raise your right hand. Because this oath is rather long, I will read the entire oath for you. It will start with I state your name. At the conclusion is, I will or I do, so help me God. Got it, gentlemen? Gentlemen, raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will well and truly do and perform all in singular the duties of jailer for the county of Forsyth. That I will humanely treat all prisoners who may be brought to the jail for which I'm a keeper of, and not suffer them to escape by any negligence or inattention of mine. I do further state and swear I am not the holder of any public monies due to the state, a political subdivision, or government authority that is unaccounted for. Nor am I the holder of office of trust under the government of the United States, the several states, or a foreign state for which I cannot hold. And finally, do you swear you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Georgia, so help you God? Congratulations, deputy sheriffs. Deputy Sheriff twos, if you'll rise. Raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute all writs, warrants, precepts, and processes directed to me as a duly appointed Deputy Sheriff of Forsyth County, Georgia, or which are directed to all sheriffs specially, which I can lawfully execute and true returns make. And in all things well and truly, without malice or partiality, I will perform the duties of said Deputy Sheriff during my continuance therein and accept only my lawful pay. I do further state and swear I'm not the holder of any public monies due to the state, a political subdivision, or government authority that is unaccounted for. Nor am I the holder of office of trust under the government of the United States, the several states, or a foreign state for which I cannot hold. And finally, do you swear you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Georgia, so help you God? Congratulations, Deputy Sheriff. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our swearing in ceremonies for Forsyth County Fire and the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. I'll leave you with one charge, if I can be so bold. Don't forget what today is. Don't forget what today meant 22 years ago, 21, 20, 19, all the way to that fateful day on 2001. all of us can tell us, almost all of us, can tell us where we were standing, can tell us how we felt, and can remember that. Let that be a driving force. Let that be the driving force. Let that be the driving force that propels us through our day. When we feel division, when we feel like America's sliding one way or the other, be the force that holds it together. Be the good citizen. Lend a helping hand or a kind word. And when somebody needs something, be the man or woman, be the American that steps up and represents, like those first responders and those brave citizens did on September 11, 2001. Because they were the best of us, and we owe them nothing less. Ladies and gentlemen, it is distinctly an honor to have you here today, and it's an honor for both Chief Head, I, and Chairman John to be here today. And what an awesome opportunity for these men and women, because I can assure you, we remember when we graduated the police academy, the fire academy, when we were sworn in. They'll never forget the day they were sworn in. I pray they never forget the day they're sworn in. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being who you are, and thank you for being with us here today. God bless. Oh, I do have one more thing, as I'm being told. This is always cool. And y'all got to see him do his work. Lieutenant Hughes, front and center. There he is. At our swearing-in ceremonies, we historically award, whether it is a award of valor, award of anything, but we also award tenure, celebrating his 25th year with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Kenny Hughes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.